Have you ever tried to use any decentralized application? And if you have, you might have seen that connect wallet option, right? That you need to connect your wallet, you need to install a Metamask wallet or any other decentralized wallet so that you can start using a decentralized application. And it's a very tedious process. It's a very boring process, I will say. You need to keep your private key safe. You need to copy those seed phrases. Oh my God, there are so many steps, right? But what if I will tell you that in order to access a decentralized application, you do not require any decentralized wallet. You do not require any Metamask wallet. You do not require any seed phrases to keep private or any private key or something. You just need your LinkedIn profile. And if you have your LinkedIn profile, you can simply sign into your LinkedIn. And once you will sign into your LinkedIn, you will be able to use the decentralized application. You won't believe me, right? But that's what we are going to do today. In today's video, we are going to create a decentralized application in which a user will be able to log in just via his LinkedIn profile. And the best part is, don't think that we are going to keep his private key with ours, like this private key of the user will be saved on some server or something. No, the private key will be constructed at the client side only. Means the security will be foolproof and there will be no tedious process of keeping your private key safe and secure or copy pasting those seed phrases. Just by doing a simple login, user will be able to use the decentralized application. He will be able to interact with the smart contract, read the smart contract, write on the smart contract, each and everything. And he will not require to install anything. Now this is what we are going to create today. I hope you are excited for today's tutorial. Let's start. So let's start with what we are going to build first. So this is a very simple looking application and a user need to log in first in order to access this application. So once the user will log in, he will be able to do smart contract interaction. He will be able to read data from the smart contract as well as write data on the smart contract. And how he will be doing that? First of all, he need to click on this login button. And when he will click on this login button, there will be multi-level authentication taking place. So we will be using Web3 auth, we will be using auth 0, we will be doing server-side authentication. So many things will be going on once the user will click on login. So let me click on login. So you can see now the constructor of key is taking place and I need to provide my LinkedIn ID in order to access this application. So I will click on sign in and now you can see again constructor of your key is taking place and we do not need to reload this place. And again, since I have a multi-factor authentication in this application, so I need to provide this OTP here. So the OTP is 657181 and now we are entering into the application and this is done. So login successful and now we are into the application. Now once the user will log in, he will be able to see his account, the balance he has, and he will see this particular input data and the store data that is already stored on the smart contract. So let's say if I want to change the data, I will simply click on 20. Let's say like I want to store value 20. I will click on store value. You can see the transaction is in pending state. We need to wait for some time. And once this is done, we will have a message transaction is successful. And during this process, this entire process, have I ever used Metamask or any other wallet in order to do that? No, I have just logged in with my LinkedIn profile and that's it. I have an account and now I can use this account in order to do transaction on the blockchain. So no lazy steps of doing, just go to the Metamask and install Metamask, that onboarding process of Metamask, just LinkedIn ID and that's it. And you can see the transaction is successful and I have successfully stored 20 on the blockchain. And once the user will click on logged out and boom, he is logged out from the application. Again, we have the login button. Again, if you want to log in, he will again click on it. And again, the same process. So I hope you are excited for this tutorial. We are going to see each and everything, how we are going to do this, how we are going to interact with the blockchain without creating any wallets or something. So I have divided this tutorial into 3 phases. The first phase, this is the foundation phase where we are going to build our foundation, where we are going to see how we can use Web3 auth with LinkedIn. The second phase is auth 0 with LinkedIn. And the third phase will be server-side authentication. So we are going to spend good amount of time on phase 1 because this will be the foundation phase. Once we will understand this phase 1, it's very easy to understand this phase 2 as well as this phase 3. Then phase 2 is easy, like once we will understand phase 1, and then phase 3 is also easy. I will explain you each and everything, how to do, like how to construct your own public key, how to fetch tokens and how to verify using server side. So let's start with this tutorial. So the first phase will look something like this. Okay, so this is the documentation. We are referring Web3 auth documentation. Here, this is your front-end application. You will trigger a login. This will go to the login provider. It will submit token to Web3 auth SDK. And then we are doing the private key reconstructions here so that we can access the account, right? The blockchain account, so that we can interact with the blockchain. But again, you will see a lot of steps are going here as well. We will pass this ID token for validation to the Web3 auth network, and then this will share the private key, some part of the private key basically, again with us. Okay. And during this whole process, we are going to create our private key, and we will able to interact with the blockchain once we will log in with LinkedIn, because we are going to use LinkedIn as a login provider for now. But in your case, you can choose any other as well. Here's a quick side note before starting with the tutorial, that if you really want to understand the internal working of Web3 Auth, how actually Web3 Auth works, I will highly suggest you to go through their documentation. Definitely, I will be teaching you each and everything, whatever is required in this tutorial. But if you want to know the internals of Web3 Auth, like how private key is, constructed and each and everything, then I will highly suggest you to go through their documentation. They have pretty amazing documentation. I will say each and everything is given in a very nice and organized way. So I will definitely suggest you to go for that. Okay. So let's start with the documentation, because we know, right? We are developers, so we need to start with documentation. And currently I'm at quick start part. So what you have to do is, I will provide all the links in the description of this video so that you can quickly check. So let me just go back. So this is web3auth.io.docs. You have to go to quick start and you will find this particular page. And don't worry, you do not have to copy paste each and everything. I will be telling you what you need to do and what you need not to do. Okay. So here, as you can see that we have various options, like we can go for plug and play, and then this core kit. So we will be going for plug and play. Okay. I'm just telling you all this so that, let's say in future, when you are referring to the documentation, you are clear like what this particular documentation is providing you with. So here you will see the second step, that is web modal SDK, and so many SDK options are there. So because we are going to go for this no modal SDK, I will be selecting this, and we will be going for a framework React. So yeah, React is already selected, but if you want to go for any other front end, that is Next.js, Vue, Angular, or any other, definitely you can choose that. Now the first step, as you can see in the documentation, is to install this particular part. But before that, let us install React.js, okay, because we have selected React, and then we will install all these dependencies. Okay, so let's start with the first step. The first step will be npx create React app, and let me name the app as client. Okay, and you can name your app whatever you want. So I'm going to name it as client. Let's wait for the packages to get installed. Okay, so now this is done. I will simply do cd client in order to check this. So npm start. So as you can see, the React application is running. So now since this is done, let me copy this particular code. Okay, and let us simply split this terminal. Okay, and I will simply copy paste this particular code. Let's wait for it to get installed in the client folder. So as you can see, I'm still in the client folder, right? So now all the packages are installed, and let's check this in package.json. So as you can see, okay, but we need to do certain changes here. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So as you can see, if you will scroll down in this documentation, you will find this particular part, that is troubleshoot webpack in React. So basically there will be some webpack issue, and we do not want that, right? So let's troubleshoot this problem beforehand. Just copy this particular code, go back, and let's install this. Okay, so this is just to avoid the errors that we are going to face once we are going to use Web3 Auth. And then let's copy this, going back. Let's paste this particular dependency. Okay, and then we need to create this config override.js in the root of our project. Okay, so let's copy this code. Let's create in this client folder config override.js. Let's paste this. Let me check the spelling. This is overwrites, not overwrite. So it should be overwrites. Okay. And then we need to go to the package.json and update these scripts. That is, instead of React scripts, replace it with React app rewired. So just copy this script, and this is the last change that you need to do. So this is the before part. This is how it must be looking right now, and we need to convert this into this particular part. So let's go to package.json. So currently this is the before part, and now I will paste this particular code. So this is the after part. Let's save this. Let me rerun this application. So just to check like whether everything is working properly or not. Okay, so everything is working fine. Great. And the installation part is completed. This is the most, I think this is the most boring part, if I'm not wrong. So now let's go to the source folder and let's clear all these things. We do not require all these things. Okay, and let's remove this as well as remove this. Okay, and this one as well. Let's have some code here so that we do not face any error. Yes, now good. So now we have completed all the installation step, and it's time to use this particular code. And in this, if you will see, the first part is just to import all the important modules that we will be requiring. And then we have this snippet of code. Now this is something which is related to configuring your chain. That is, if you want to connect with Polygon, then you will make some changes here. If you want to connect it with, let's say, Solana, then you will make some changes here. Let's say if I will select Polygon here, you will see the things inside this particular object got changed, right? So if I will select Ethereum, we have chain ID as 1, and then we have this RPC target and so many different things. And for this tutorial, I will be connecting to the Sepolia test network. So I will be making changes in these things accordingly, and I will show you that particular code as well. So this is the important code if you want to connect, if you want to if you want to select a particular blockchain with whom you want to interact. And then we have this another snippet of code, and this is a very important snippet because this Web3 auth is like our superpower. So this is a object, as you can see, and we will be using it. And this is as I said, this is your superpower, because with the help of this Web3 auth, you are going to do so many different things. You will be, let's say if you want to log out, or let's say you want to get the user profile, or let's say you want to call a function, you will be requiring this Web3 auth instance. So this is a very important snippet. Okay. And if you will see, in order to create this snippet, I need this client ID. And this client ID is actually present in your Web3 auth dashboard, and I will be telling you how you get that. And then we have this Web3 auth network. Now this is something which is making Web3 auth much more scalable. So we will not go in depth of this in today's video. Okay. And then we have the chain config that we have is here, right? So now let's create this client ID, because this is something which we will be requiring in the Web3 auth. Now, in order to create this client ID, I need to go to the Web3 auth documentation, not documentation, but Web3 auth dashboard. You can just click on this Web3 auth dashboard, or you can click on this particular button so that you can go to the Web3 auth dashboard. And I'm already signed up to it, so that's why it is opening directly my dashboard. But in your case, you need to simply sign up to this by doing, doing Google or LinkedIn, whatever you prefer, and then you can simply sign up to the website. Once you will sign up to this, just go to the projects tab. And you can see I have so many projects. In your case, it might be empty, or there will be some demo projects. And I will be selecting add project. And we are doing this just to get the client ID. So I will be creating a new app, let's say React 4, single page application React 4. I will be selecting plug and play, right? And then I will be selecting platform as web application. You can select any other platform as well. And then we will have this devnet, okay? And then we have the chain. So I'm going for EVM based chain. So yes, I will be selecting that. And then I will simply do create project. Now, once this is done, now I have my client ID ready. Now, another thing that we will be requiring is, let me show you the documentation once again. Since, as I said, right, we are going to connect with the Ethereum Sepolia test network, right? Now, in order to make that connection, in order to interact with that Sepolia test network, I need something, right? I need an API so that I can interact with the Sepolia test network. So for that, I will be using QuickNode. Okay, you can simply go to Google and search for QuickNode. You can go for any other API as well, like Alchemy or Infura. I will be using QuickNode. And in this, once you will sign up, you have to go to this endpoints. In my case, you can see that I have already created this API that is for Ethereum Sepolia. I will show you that. But before that, in your case, what you need to do is you need to click on this create endpoint, select Ethereum, then go for continue, and then you have to select Sepolia test network. Okay, and then continue once more. Now, in your case, at this point of time, the endpoint will be created. But in my case, you can see that I am seeing this dialog box because I'm using the free quota, and free quota is already over. I can only create one endpoint in free quota. So I cannot create a new endpoint here. But in your case, you will be able to create a new endpoint. Now, once you will create a new endpoint, what you need to do is, let me go back. You have to simply copy this HTTP provider. Okay. Once you will create an endpoint, it will look something like this. You have to simply select this. You have to copy this HTTP provider. This will be required in order to connect with the Sepolia test network. So now we have everything ready in place. What we will do is we will create some folder. Let's say the first folder is config folder. And inside this, I will have my client ID, my contract address and everything, and the chain config as well, so that we can separate it from the React part. Okay, we will simply use it from here only. So I will name it config.js, and inside this I will have the app ID, sorry, not client ID, not app ID, client ID. So let me just copy my client ID. This is for SPA React 4. I will simply copy this. I will paste it here. In the same way, I will have const chain config, and in this I will be pasting this code. Okay, and here you can see that I have selected the Sepolia test network chain ID. So when you will search for Sepolia test network, you will see the chain ID of Sepolia test network. You need to convert that into hexadecimal number, and this is the chain ID in hexadecimal number. Let me comment it out as well. Hexa format. Okay, and then we have this quick node API so that we can connect with the Sepolia test network. Okay, and then these are some extras like in order to go to the go really etherscanner.io or something, but you don't have to worry for now. And then we have export const contract address, and this we will be creating soon once we will deploy the smart contract. For now, let me make it empty. Okay, so that we do not forget. Now once this is done, so the config file is ready. Now let me create a new folder where we will create the web3 auth instance, and let me name it utils.js. Again, this is just to make the code much more manageable. You can have each and everything at one place only. Okay, that's your wish, but just to make the code little bit more cleaner, I'm going to use utils.js in order to create the different things. For example, in order to create the web3 auth instance, so I will be simply copy pasting certain things, all these modules that we have seen in the documentation. Then we will create one function by the name of initialize web3 auth. Okay, and this is the client ID and chain config that I have imported from the config file. Okay, so from the same config file, and instead of naming it utils.js, let's rename it to authservice.js so that it is easily recognizable. Let's have a try catch block, catch any errors, and we can simply console log the error. And we will be calling this initial web3 auth from React component, so I can return null, so that if by chance it is, by chance we have some error, so it will return null and we can manage the situation there. Now in order to create the web3 auth instance, again I'm copying it from the documentation only. Web3 auth instance, new web3 auth no modal, and then we have the client ID, we have the web3 auth network Sapphire devnet. I am selecting Sapphire devnet because we are doing everything on the devnet, right, not on the main network. Then we have the chain config again from here. Now once this is done, we will simply have this private key provider. Now this is very important in order to generate the private key, as the name suggests, private key provider. Let me just give some comments here. Web3 auth instance, and then this is for the private key, and I will show you how this is helpful. And then we will have this particular code. Now this is when we will connect with the LinkedIn, right, or any other social login provider. So this will be helpful there. Now once this is done, we will simply do web3.instance configure adapter, and we will simply have this open login adapter. So this is just the initial step. You do not need to worry about if you're not understanding any of these things. Just understand that, okay, this is this is your web3 auth instance that you are creating here. Just understand this. This is, for now, this is only it. Okay, if you understand this, you will figure out each and everything afterwards. So just do this. Now once you will do this, just return the web3 auth instance from here. Okay, so we will call this initialize web3 auth, and we can simply do export default. Let's do here export default initialize web3 auth. Yeah, now this is good. So now we have exported this particular function as well, and now we can use it in our components. So now in app.js, we will be requiring import use effect. Okay, so that we can do web3 auth in it from React. So here we will have use effect. Let's create a function. Now inside try and catch is very important, right, so that we can catch like any error that we are having. And here only I will do web3 auth instance, and I will simply call the initialize web3 auth function from here. So I will simply import it. I will do import initialize web3 auth from utils. Okay, and I will simply copy this and I will call this. Now once this is done, we can do await and web3 auth instance dot init. Now this is a very important step so that you can initialize your web3 auth instance, and this has to happen as soon as your application load. Okay, so you make sure that you have this inside your use effect, and you should have for now empty dependency list. Okay, and let's do one more thing, because we will be requiring this web3 auth instance. So let's do this. Let me do a use state, and let me have web3 auth instance, set web3 auth instance state. So let's do one thing. Let's simply set it here. Let's call this init web3 auth function, right? And let's check this as well. Let's console.log web3 auth instance so that we can see that we have the web3 auth instance with us or not. Let me save this. So we are seeing one warning, I think. Okay, so this is related to the web3 auth instance that we are not using yet. We will be using this soon. Now do control plus shift plus J. Okay, so we have some error here. Let me refresh it. No. Okay, everything is working. The initial code is gone because I have just refreshed the page and we have removed everything from the app component, right? So that's why it is gone. And now you can see that you have your web3 auth no model instance. And as I said, this is a very important instance because with the help of this, we are going to do a lot of things. And this is the client ID and everything is available here. And you are seeing this 2 times because we are currently in the React strict mode. So if I will remove that React strict mode, let me go back. Let me go to index.js. Now this is something not like in your production ready app, you will not be seeing this, but for now, let me remove this. Going back, if I will refresh now, you can see that now we have only one instance of web3 auth model. So now let us deploy the smart contract so that we can interact with it. And I will connect my Remix ID with Metamask because currently we do not have web3 auth here, right? But soon we will have that here as well. But for now, let me do this. Okay, and currently I'm connected to Sepolia test network, as you can see. Okay, and this is my account. So I will simply go and compile this contract, deploy this on the Sepolia test network. So let's deploy this. And if you do not have a MetaMask account, that's totally fine. What you can do is you can simply use my contract address. This is a very simple smart contract where we are simply fetching the value, you can see, with the help of this retrieve function, and we are simply storing the value. So there is nothing, I'm doing anything very fancy here. You can simply use my contract address if you do not want to, deploy the smart contract or have some extra step of installing MetaMask or something. You can simply use my smart contract address. So I will copy the address, go back to my config, right? And I will simply paste it here. Now this is important because now we are going to create a component with the help of which we are going to make interaction with the smart contract. And for that, I need 2 things basically. First thing is the ABI and second thing is the contract address so that I can create a smart contract instance. So let me go back and I can go to the compilation section and I will simply copy this ABI, and definitely you can go for hard hat or truffle, whatever you want to choose in order to do the same thing. It is, I think, just easy because we are simply doing one smart contract here. So I don't think so there is some harm in directly copying pasting the ABI here. So I will simply do abi.json and I can paste the code here. So this is my ABI and this is my contract address. So let me close all these things. Now what I can do is I can create some components. So let me create a component by the name of basically let's create a components folder first of all. So components, and inside this we will have a login component, login.js, and a logout.js. Let me create the component. This is default login. Okay, and you can also go for function login as well. I'm using the arrow notation. Like in this, you can also go for function app, function login as well. The same way, let me go for logout. Okay, let me rename it to logout, right? Now, in order to use this login component, what I need to do is I need to, first of all, I need the login as well as the login component here. So login and the logout. So as you can see, now I have both the components here and you can see both the components imported here as well. Now in this login component, what I need is web3 auth instance. So I will be simply creating this, means I will be simply passing it as a prop. And later in our code, we will be requiring a functionality in order to check the login status. So for that I can do is I can create a new use state that is logged in, which I can set depending on the login status. So is logged in, and then initially let us make this false. Okay, and let's pass this as well to this. So is logged in as is logged in, and set is logged in as set is logged in. Okay, great. And in the same way we will do for logout, but let's do that afterwards. Let's go to login and let's have all these props, web3 auth instance. Now this is important. Let me tell you why, because what we are doing is we are going to create a web3 provider so that we can interact with the smart contract, right? I'm going to copy paste it from here only so that we do not make any spelling mistakes, and I can simply have it right here. And let's have set is logged in. Now once this is done, let me import Again here use state. Okay, and we will require one more package, that is where wallet adapters, and you will see why we require this. And now what we will do is, first of all, I will create one object by the name of web3 state, that is set web3 state, and inside this we will have all each and everything that is required to the web3 state, that is contract instance, the web3 library object so that we can use it, the connected account so that we can use it all over the application whenever we want, and initially we can have not connected, so not connected, and this is it. And let's create one global variable by the name of web3 auth provider. Let's initialize it to null here, and now we will create a function. Now this function will again have a try catch, and inside this we will check for the web3 auth provider, whether the web3 auth provider is present or not. If it is not present, then we will do web3 auth provider equal to await web3 auth instance that's we have already passed as a prop, and then we have this connect to wallet adapters. So this is the library, as I said, this is the package that I'm going to use, and now we are simply connecting it with LinkedIn. Definitely you can go for Google or any other provider as well. I'm going for LinkedIn and I have selected LinkedIn here. Now this functionality will be used when the user will click on the login button. Now as soon as the user will click on this login button, we will call this login function, and this will connect us with the LinkedIn, and then we will type our password and everything, and then we will be connected with LinkedIn. Okay, if we provide the right credentials. So now what we will be doing is, now once we will have the provider, if the web3 or provider is not present, and once the user will connect with the LinkedIn, now we will have the provider. We will use this provider in order to create our contract instance, and in order to get the connected account. And for that, what I will do is, I will again go to the utils folder. I will create a new file by the name of web3 state, okay, .js, and here I will import the ABI from abi.json. I will install a package of web3. So I will be using latest version of web3, that is web3 4, that is version 4. So let us install that as well, because currently we haven't installed it, right? So let's install this, and let's first of all do import the contract address from the config file, right? So we have the contract address from the config file. Now before going further, let me install, okay, let me do npm first, right? Npm install web3. So this will install the web3 package in our node modules, and then we can use it. So we will create one more function by the name of initialize web3 state, and inside this we will pass the web3 auth provider web3. So now again inside this try and catch, we will check whether the web3 auth provider is present or not. If it is not present, then simply we will throw a new error, that throw new error web3 or null. Okay, and let's catch this. Now this is a situation only when we do not have the web3 provider in place. And if we have the web3 provider, we will simply create the web3 object. So we will simply do const web3 new web3, and inside this we will pass the web3 auth provider. Okay, then now we have the web3. We can simply create a contract instance by doing new web3 eth.contract. And inside this, since we want to create a contract instance, we require two things, right? First, the ABI, which we already imported, and then the contract address, which we already imported. And now since we have the contract and web3 as well, I can fetch other details as well. Like let's say, for example, if I want to fetch the detail of an account, I can simply do await web3.eth.get accounts, and we can have the connected account so that we can return it from here, right? In the accounts 0 array, right? And simply we will return all these things from web3 contract as well as the connected account. Now who will call this function? First of all, let me export it, export default initialize web3 state. So this function will be called by the login component, right? So I will simply have the web3, or what we can do is we can simply do a destructuring web3 contract and the connected account, and we will simply do await initialize web3 state call. So now you can see that it is already imported here, and we can simply pass this web3 provider once it is initialized. Okay, so this is looking nice. Now let's check this whether it is actually working properly or not. And in order to check this, what we can do is we can simply do a console.log of web3 and of contract as well as of connected account. So if everything will be ready, we will be able to do that. And before doing this, before using and checking this, what we need is we need to call this return. We will need to call this login function, right? So let's have a div and we can have an on click. Let's have a login button. So for now, do not worry about the CSS part. We will add the CSS part later, but I think this is good just to check whether we have the Web3 contract and connected account. And if we have that, we can simply set it. Okay, let's save this. Let's check this. So now I have refreshed it and I'm clicking on login. So you can see that since we have used the connect to function, right, of Web3 auth instance, so it is actually connecting us with LinkedIn. And now I need to type my password. As I said, right, we will be authenticated here. And now I need to type my password here. So you can see that it is asking us that we want to give this allowance. Let's do yes, allow for now, so that we can check each and everything. So it is taking some time. Okay, again, since now we need to provide since I have already used this particular application, so I think it is asking that I need to confirm it. So I need to provide an email verification here. So this is the magic of multi-factor authentication. So it is 340917. So this is good. And here it is. As you can see, this is great, guys. This is great. This is so amazing, right? After doing so much hard work, when you see the results, it's truly amazing. So now you can see that we have the Web3 object and we can confirm it because now we can see the connected account. Okay. And not only that, you can see that we have the contract instance and each and everything is done by the Web3 auth provider. So we do not have to do anything. We have simply used the Web3 auth provider. It has provided us with this new account. And just imagine, we haven't used anywhere any MetaMask wallet or any wallet. We have simply logged in with our LinkedIn ID and Web3 auth has done everything for us. It has created a account for us and now we can use this account in order to do all kind of transaction on blockchain. So this is truly amazing, right? And this is the contract instance and we can confirm it by checking the functions. So you can see this is the functions tab, and in this function tab you can see that we have this retrieve function, this store function. So we do have the contract instance ready. So we can go back and now since we have each and everything in place, I can set all these things, right? I can do set Web3 state with Web3 contract and the connected account. And as you have seen in the demo application, we have this balance of the user, right? So we can fetch the balance of the user as well. Let me fetch it here only. So now here what we can have is the balance of a user so that we can display it on the screen. So we can have balance of VJ, and why I'm writing OBJ, because whatever it is written by web3.js latest version is in big number object format. So I'm just going to convert it afterwards. So I will simply have the connected account and then I will simply have the account balance of user, which will be by web3.utils from way to balance obj to ether. Okay, I'm going to convert it into ether. And not only that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have only till 2 decimal places so that it looks good on the user interface as well. So for that reason, I'm going to have formatted balance so that we can have only up to 2 decimal places. So account balance, I will take the account balance and I will simply fix it to, and definitely it's up to you if you want that. Okay, you do not want any kind of criteria like that, you can change it. Okay, you can have whatever you want. I will simply write it here, converting up to 2 decimal places. So this is nice. So let me write it here. This is the main thing in order to connect with LinkedIn. Okay, so this is the connect to function, which is actually helping us in connecting with LinkedIn. If you will change LinkedIn to Google or something else, it will help you connecting with that particular, login provider. So now this login page is done and we will work on the UI part, that is how it will reload or something afterwards. But for now, let's just work on the functionality part so that we can see that each and everything is working, and then we can work on the UI part just to make it look much more good, right? So that we are not distracted from the UI, CSS and everything. Now what we can do is we can create a functionality for logout as well. And logout functionality is also very easy. So I will simply have this particular thing passed as a prop and I will simply have this here. So I will just copy all these things from here. Okay, the whole thing from here, and I will paste it here. Great. Now I will create a function handle logout. Now first we will check for the Web3 auth instance, whether Web3 auth instance is present or not. If it is present, then what we are going to do is we are simply going to use this in order to log out. And to log out, it's very simple. You have to simply use this logout method that is provided by Web3 auth instance. And once you will do that, everything will be done for you. So you don't have to worry anything about anything that, okay, you have to do this or that. No, just using this logout function, this method provided by Web3 auth instance, everything will be done. Now, in order to call this function, I will be simply doing a return. Let's have an on-click event on this handle logout, and we can have logout. Okay, and just have handle login here as well. It's so that each and everything looks same for the consistency sake, right? Consistency sake, yeah. For the consistency sake, let's do this. Great. Now this is also done, logout is also done, each and everything is done, and each and everything is in place. Definitely, in order to check the logout functionality, we need to have certain more things, and for that I need to create some more basically components here. That is, let's say store data.js and view data.js. Now this is so that we can interact with the smart contract and we can store data on the smart contract as well as we can view data from the smart contract. So I have pasted store data component here with certain amount of code. This code is just to create a form so that we can store the value, and when we will submit this form, we are simply calling the store value function. So it's a very simple component. I think just to call this form means just to submit this form, and then we will be calling the store value function. Now, in order to make this store value function work, what we need to do is we need to interact with the smart contract, right? So that we can call the functions of the smart contract. And for that, what we need is we need contract instance, right? And what we will do for that, we will simply create a div here. Okay, we will simply create a div here. We will place this div inside this. Let's have a little bit of indentation, and then again I will create one more div. Now inside this I will have the store data component. Okay, now inside the store data component I will pass, and since we want to deal with the smart contract instance, right, I will simply pass the web3 state, which will have the smart contract instance as well as the connected account, each and everything. And simply I can use it as a prop here, web3 state. Okay, this is good. So first of all, we will make sure that the page does not get reload because of the form submission. So I will have a e.prevent default. I will simply have a try catch once more. And inside this try catch, first of all, I will check whether we have the contract instance or not. So let me destructure the contract instance here. So contract as well as the connected account from the web3 state, connected account from the web3 state. I will take this. I will check this basically if contract or connected accounts is not present, because what we are doing is we are actually doing a change operation. We are actually writing something on the smart contract, right? So for that, we need the connected account so that we can sign the transaction. So that's why connected account is very necessary when we are writing on the blockchain. If we were reading the blockchain, then the connected account is not necessary. We can simply read from the blockchain, which is totally free. But in order to write something on the blockchain, I need to have a connected account through which I can sign the transaction. And if by chance we do not have this, I will simply throw an error that contract instance or connected account are not available. Now, once this is done, what I can do is I can simply have an import. Okay, just to tell you that I have some amount of CSS, like just a little bit of CSS I have used here, and I provided all the code to you so that you can check it on the GitHub. So that's like you don't have to understand the CSS part, because don't worry, I'm also very bad at CSS. So you can simply use the CSS file that I have provided you. So I will simply do a use ref here, and here I can do so the value that will be passed by the user. So I will simply have a num ref. I will do use ref, and inside this input tag I can use this, right? Ref is equal to num ref, and once I have the num value, I can simply have it here. So input num, input num, then num ref dot current dot value, and if by chance the number that we are getting is null or by chance is not a number, we can console.log, or we can definitely remove this console.log with something much more appropriate afterwards. But for now, let's have a please provide a valid number, and we can simply return from here. If everything is correct, then what we will do is we will simply make smart contract interaction by doing await contracts. Since we already have the contract instance, I will simply use the web3.js library now, methods, and what we need to call is the store function. And inside the store function, I will pass the input num. And once this is passed, I will use this send function and pass one object, that is the connected account, into this send function. Now this will make sure that the transaction is taking place. Now once this is done, once the transaction is confirmed, I can simply again make the current value to back to empty, right? That will be much more good. And definitely afterwards you will have some reload effect, and we will have some toast so that we can display a good UI message to the user that okay, the transaction is taking place or something is happening. But for now, just let me have a console.log just to check whether the transaction is done or not. So transaction is completed. Okay, now this is just to make sure that okay, the transaction is completed or not completed. So now going back to the browser, now you can see that we have this login as well as the logout functionality. Okay, so what I need to do is first of all need to make sure that I am log out from the application so that I can check that each and everything is working. So let's go to logout, and for now let's have a console dot statement that okay, we are log out from the application or not. So console.log logged out, yeah, or log out successful, something like this. Okay, now once this is done, let me simply do a logout. Okay, so the logout is successful. Just let me refresh it. And now let me do a login once more. So again, we are being authenticated. Let me type the password. Okay, I think I pressed the too many times the login button. Let me refresh it. Let me again do a login. So I think I am logged into the application. Again, we should have a console.log statement, and again, we will have some good UI here. But for now, let me check. Let me input 20, store value. Okay, so there is a problem that number of dot current value is not a function. Okay, I think I made a mistake in the store data. Okay, I have made this as a function, so it should not be a function. Let us have a trim here. Okay, so that we do not have any white spaces. Let's go back. Let's try this once more. Store value. Okay, so there is some okay, let me refresh it. Okay, let's do one thing. Go back to the login part and let's console something so that we know that we have logged in successfully. For now, console.log, let's refresh this. Just let's have a log out, again log in. Let's have the value, store value. Okay, so there is some issue. So let's check whether we do have the contract instance as well as the connected account with us or not. So let's check that first of all. So let's do contract and connected account, store value. So we do have the contract instance as well as the connected account. I think the problem is somewhere else. Okay, I think I understand what the problem is. I think the problem is with the user balance. If I will go back to the login part and if I will check the user balance, I think it might be, or it should not be, might be, because first of all, we have created the account for the first time. So the formatted balance, let's check the formatted balance. I think it is 0. That's why we are having this issue. So let's just do a logout once more. Let's clear this. Let's simply do a login. Okay, yeah, the user balance currently you can see is 0, right? So what I need to do is I need to transfer some amount of ether to it so that I can use this account to do certain transaction on the blockchain. And since we are using Sepolia test network, now in order to get some amount of ether, I am here at Alchemy Sepolia faucet. I will simply type the account address. So this is the account address. I will click on send me some ETH. So now we will have some ETH in our account and we can use then that particular ETH in order to do the transaction on the blockchain, right? But let me show you the beautiful part. The beautiful part here is that this account, we have not created this account, right? This is done by the Web3 auth. Now we are simply funding this account so that definitely we can do transaction on the blockchain, right? Let's wait for this to be over. Let me check whether the transaction is confirmed or not. So currently I think it is in the pending state. So yeah, now the transaction is confirmed and now we will have some amount of balance. So again, we need to do this kind of a thing once more so that we can check login. So you can now see that we have this 0.5 ETH, right? Because Sepolia faucet transfers 0.5 ETH. And after the format, we are seeing 0.50 because of the formatted value. I have fixed it to 2 decimal places. So that's why you are seeing 0.50. But now if I will do some transaction, let's say if I'm storing some value, store value, we need to wait for some time. And now you can see the transaction is completed. And we can check that. We can go back to the Remix ID. And definitely we will have the same functionality in our application as well. But for now, just to show you, if I will retrieve the value, you can see it is 20, right? It is the same smart contract address that we have made some changes and you can see the value is 20. In the same way, if I will make some other value, let's say 50, store value, again, we have to wait for some time and then we will have some good UI thing which will actually show that the transaction is in pending state. But we will do it afterwards. So the transaction is again complete. If we'll go back, retrieve value, it is 50. Hooray, hooray. So now we are able to talk to the blockchain. We are able to make changes on the smart contract. And now it's time to view those changes on the smart contract, right? And for that, I have already copy pasted the view data value, that is view data.js, and it's a very simple code where I'm simply using a use state and use effect in order to set the value, whatever value we are getting from the smart contract. And you can see I have this use effect, and this use effect will be called definitely by its own, right, when the rendering process will take place, and then whenever there will be a contract instance change, so this use effect will run. And then by this like using this use effect, we are simply using the contract method retrieve function, and we are using the we are using call method here, we are not using send method here, because we are simply viewing data from the blockchain and we do not require any account as well. So I have simply retrieved the contract instance only from the web3 state, and I'm simply converting this big number object, because the value that you will get from the smart contract will be in the form of a big number value. You need to convert this back to a num value. So that's why I have just converted this here, and I have set this value so that I can show it to the user, right? So the value is saved inside this use state. So in order to show this, like in order to see this, basically, I need to simply go to view data, and I need to pass this web3 state once more here as well. Okay, so what I'm doing, okay, let me import it. So I will simply do import view data. Let me check the view data. Okay, it is read data, that's why it was not importing. It should be okay. No, it is read data. Okay, so there is an inconsistency in the file name. Let's have view data only, and let's have view data here as well, right, to avoid any inconsistencies. Okay, now this is good. Everything now is in place. We can go back, and you can see the store data is 50. So now we are retrieving data directly from the smart contract. So hooray, the first part is complete, where we are simply logging into LinkedIn ID, and we are fetching not only the data, but we are also storing the data on the smart contract, and we have not used any wallets here. We are simply using the LinkedIn profile that we have created. But now let's come to the UI part. Let's make some changes in the UI part, make it much more good. And then we will go to the second part of this application, that is to connect it with auth 0. So now let us make some changes for the UI part. So first thing first, we have this is logged in and set is logged in, right, prop. So what we will do is we will simply set it once we are logged in. So what we can do is we can simply set is logged in once we are logged in, or we can place it here as well, right? We should place it here once we are logged in. So here I'm doing a toggle operation. So if you remember, in the app component we have this is logged in as false, right? So now we are doing a toggle operation, and not only that, we will have some CSS now. Class name will be top right, so we will have the login button in the top right, and we will make sure that this button is only visible when is logged in. When not of is logged in means when this value will be false, then only we will be seeing the button. And that's good as well, because initially when the application will render for the first time, right, this is logged in will be false, and user need to log into it. So once the user will log into it, we will have like till the time is logged in is false, till the time we will see this login button. Now once the user will log into the application, this login button will disappear from the front end, right? In the same way, we can have two more things, that is the account, the connected account. So we will have here web3.state, not web3.state, but web3.connected account, right? So this will be the connected account. Okay, so there is state as well. In the same way, we will have another thing, that is account balance. So we have not set the account balance, right? So let me create a use state balance, set balance use state. Let's have initially 0, and we can now set it here, right? So we will set the balance of the user, and once the balance is updated, we can show it here. And then what we will do is we will again have a class name here, so that we have this input tag in the center, and then we are going to show this particular thing only when the is logged in is true, right? So we will simply have is logged in, and let's have this whole thing inside this. Let's have this, then we will have this. So this functionality, as you can see, is totally opposite of the previous one. So till the user will not logged in, we are going to not show this particular store data as well as the view data. We are going to show this only when the user is logged in. So initially when is logged in will be false, means when the user has not logged in, we are not going to show this particular thing. We will show this when the user will logged in. Okay, and till the time user is not logged in, we can show this particular thing, that if is not logged in, we can simply have you need to log in first. Okay, And in this we will have a class name home txt, it is home text. So let me zoom out a little bit. So now you can see that the login button as well as the connected account and account balance are at the right hand side, while the logout button is at the left hand side. And definitely have done this so that these two things are at different places, but we will improve this, don't worry. And now you can see that we need to log in first in order to going back into the application. So let me log out first. Let me now click on login. So again, the authentication will take place, and if we will log in to the application, we will see the store data as well as the input tag where we can insert the data for the smart contract. And here you can see that, okay, I think there is some issue with the css, but we will make sure that it is right. But for now you can see, okay, what I'm doing, okay, I think there is, let me check the css part. But for now you can see that we have the input data as well as the store data once the user is logged in. And once the user is logged in, we are able to see the account address as well as the account balance of the user. Now when we will do this logout, we need to again make some functionality for this in the logout component. If I will go back here, so you can see we have this is logged in, right, and set is logged in here as well. So once the user will log out, we will simply set it to, like, we will simply toggle it right once more. So we will simply toggle this. So now once the user will logged in, we will toggle this, and each and everything that we are seeing right now will get toggled, and we will not be able to see once the user will log out. So if I will go back, log out, you can see now we are again back to the home page, and it is that you need to log in first in order to see the application. And again, you can see that certain things are currently still visible here because these things are stored in the state of the application. So we will make some changes that once the user will log out, all these things will also get disappear. So in order to perform that operation, what we will do is here, or not here, let's have it here, we will have a use effect which will toggle the is logged in once the user will log out. So we can write here that this will deal with the state of the application once the user log out. Okay, so we will check it here that if is login is false or not, because if it is false, then only we are going to make this web3 auth provider back to null, and we will set the web3 state back to null. So null contract null, and then the connected account we will have it as not connected. Okay, and we can set the balance again back to 0 once the user will log out. And we can have is logged in here so that we can, okay, not inside a bracket, right, is logged in here so that we can call this use effect once the user will log out from the application. Okay, so now if I will go back and if I will again log in, you will see again I have this input data, stored data 50, and I am seeing the account balance as well as the user account address. Once I will log out, again account not connected, balance is 0. So again the user need to log in. Now let's go to the logout part, and here also what we will do is we will simply make sure that once the user is logged in, we will only show this button, right? So if is logged in is true, then only we are going to show this button. Means once the user will log in, then we are going to show the logout button, and once the user will log out, we will show the login button. And here we will have a class name logout ptn top left. Okay, this is nice. Now let's create a reload functionality so that our page get reload whenever there is a change in the data, right? Once the user will input some data, there is a change in the data, so we want that the page get reloaded, right? So for that, I will simply create a new state, that is a reload, set reload, and I will simply have it here. So initially we can have it as false, and again we will use the toggling functionality, and we will pass this to set reload, okay, not set login but set reload as set reload, and then we will also pass is, not is but reload to, and in the same way we will pass this reload button to the use to the view data where we have the use effect. Now if I will go back to the store data, so once the user will complete a transaction, what we can do is we can do a set reload, and for that definitely I need to pass it here. So set reload as well as reload, and I will simply do a toggle once the user will sign in. So reload, and I will simply use this reload in the view data here as well. Again I need to pass it as a prop reload. Okay, now once we will update the data, so let me log in. So now you can see that we have this input data, and I will see why we are having this, don't worry. And now you can see that we have this stored data as 50, right? Let's say if I will make this 60, and if I will store value, again we need to wait for some time so that the transaction get confirmed. Now once it will get confirmed, the 60 will be removed and 60 will be seen here. And here you can see that. So once the transaction is confirmed, right? So once the transaction is confirmed, we are seeing 60 here, and the 60 is removed from here because the same functionality we have here, that once the transaction will be done, we will simply reload the page. We will print this console, means we will console this statement, and then we will simply um, empty the input tag, right? Now, definitely, as you are seeing that once we are doing any transaction, it is not looking that good, right? And the error messages that we are having also are in the console. So let's do something for that as well. So what we will do is we will install one more package, and that package is React Toast. Okay, so we will simply install this. I will simply copy this. This will give us a good UI. So if there is a successfully, like if a transaction is successful, we can show this kind of a thing. If there is an error, we can show this kind of a thing. So just to improve some, like, the UI part, we will have this kind of package. So let's install this. We have install. So it is getting installed. Till that point of time, we will go to app.js, not app.js, but to index.js. And here we will use the toast. So I will simply do import toaster, and it's very simple to use from React hot toast, and we will simply use it here. So like this we are using it. So definitely you can have it in center, you can have it in bottom left, bottom right, wherever you want. So whatever modal, or I will say the dialog box that we are going to see, will be in the top center. Okay, and let's check this. So currently we are in store data. So what we will do is, in order to use this toast, we will simply first of all import it, import toast. And then since this is a promise, right, this is returning us with a promise. We are using await here, but we know, right, that it is going to return with us with some promise. So what we can do is we will use await toast dot promise. Now this is provided in their documentation. Let me paste it here. So again, what we are doing is we are simply doing the same thing, contract.method.store, and we are calling the smart contract functionality. The only thing is, till the time we are in the pending state, the toast will produce this particular dialog box that transaction is pending. Now once the transaction is successful, means once everything is resolved, promise is resolved, we are going to have this transaction successful. And if by chance we have some error, then it will show us that transaction failed. So this will make UI pretty smooth. Let me show you. So let me log in first. Actually, I'm not able to log in because I'm already connected. So because of the state change in the application, if you can see that our logout button is out and everything is totally wiped out, right? So what I need to do is, for now, is to go back. I'm showing you this so that if by chance you are facing some issue like this, you can handle it by yourself. So let me remove this for now so that I can show you. I need to log out from the application, right? Now if I will just refresh it, now let me, if I will log in again, okay, and we will deal with this logout afterwards. Let us have this here so that during the state change we are not back to this same error position. Okay, so now we have logged in into the application. This is the balance. Let me update the value. So now you can see the transaction is in pending state. We need to wait for some time, and now you can see the transaction is successful and the value 56 is stored in the store data. Hooray, right? This is also nice, right? So in the same way, what I will do is I will use the toast messages in each of the console so that I can make this functionality look much more good. So if by chance we will have some error, I can show this data, or not data, basically show this message that error logout failed. So by chance if something will fail, we will be able to deal with it. So let me import toast here. And what we can do is we should also have a else here, right? If is by chance, if by chance it get failed, we can throw this error that with 3 auth instance is not present, right? In the store data also we can have this error that, okay, error while storing. And here also we can have some good error message that, okay, login failed, and we can import it here. So import toast. Okay, this is good. And same way for app.js. So if by chance it fails, we will simply have that, okay, that application error. Okay, so that if by chance it fails, we can show some data message like this, application error, and we can import it here as well. Definitely the error message that you are currently having are very generalized in nature. It should be much more specific in nature, but it's okay. We are just doing it as a demo, so I think it will work out. But if we have to make it production ready, the error messages should be much more clearer. So I will simply do okay. Nice. So now everything is done. The only thing is that we need to have this logout remove once we are login, but we will do it afterwards because we need to do certain more things here, right? We have to check the authentication process of auth 0. We have to have this server side authentication. So for that reason, I'm having log on and log out both functionality for now. So let us just log in. Okay, login failed because we are in the logout. Like we should log out first. Now if I will just refresh this, now if I will log in, and it is logging us to the application. Okay, so what we can do is, one more thing that we can have here is that, like we have toast.error, we can also have toast.success. So once we are logged into it in the application, let's say if everything is done, what we can have is we can have toast.success, that okay, login successful, so that the user is aware that okay, everything is working. And let's have the same here as well, log out successful. Okay, nice. Now the second phase will look something like this, where again we have a front-end application, but instead of directly interacting with the login provider, here you can see we are interacting with auth 0 and multiple steps are taking place. So the level of authentication has increased here. So we will, like, a user will trigger a login, we will go to auth 0 will redirect to the provider, login provider, then login details will be relayed to auth 0, then auth 0 will actually provide us with the token, right? If you remember from the first phase, we do not have auth 0, login provider were directly interacting with the Web3 auth SDK, but in this particular case, we are actually using auth 0, an extra level of security. And again, the process is the same. After this ID token is submitted back to the SDK, again we are passing it to Web3 auth network, and again private key share is relayed back to us. And now it's time for phase 2. So in order to work with auth 0, you need to create an account on auth 0, and it's a very simple process. Just type auth 0 and then create an account. Once you will do that, you will have this kind of dashboard. And in this, what you need to do is you need to go to application section. Here you have to select applications, and in your case there will be, I think, these two applications. By default they provide some demo, I believe. But now what we are going to do is we are going to create a new application, and in this we will select single page web application, that is Angular React Vue. Then we will create it. Okay, so now my application is ready. So this is a quick guide at which technology you want to select. I want to go for React, and now they have provided you with some samples, view on GitHub and so many different things, but we are not going to go into that particular part. Let me rename this app to, let's say, React SPA. Okay, React SPA. Now these two things are very important. This is the domain which we will use in our application, then this client ID. Okay, and if I will go below, so this is the logo. So since we are not using any modal, so that's why we will not see this logo, or we might see it during the first part, during the initial part when we are going to give authority. If you want to change this logo, you can change it, you can customize it according to your company brand. Then we have application type as single page application, and now we have the application login URL and so many different things. Now in this application login URL, you do not have to fill anything, URI basically, not URL but URI. In this we will fill out certain entries in the callback URLs, in the logout URLs, and in the web origin URL. Now inside this we will have this localhost 3000 or whatever port number your application is running. So we will simply have this URL here. I don't think so we require this for now, so we will not use it. Now once this is done, just click on save changes. Okay, and then we will go to authentication, and in this authentication we will select this social. Okay, I will click on this so that I can open it on a new tab. So this is the social connection basically dashboard. So you can see that I already have created this LinkedIn one, and if you want to create, you have to simply click on create connection. You have to select LinkedIn. Since I have already added it, so that's why it is not giving me any option to select it. But in your case, you have to simply select LinkedIn. Now once you will select LinkedIn, you don't have to do much here. You have to simply go for LinkedIn in your social connection. Once you will go to this, you will see that we have certain options. Now If you are creating a production ready app, then in that particular case, you should have the API key and secret key, which you will get from the LinkedIn developer tools. But in our case, since we are creating a demo application, we do not require it right now. So what I will be doing is I will be leaving it empty. So this will be taken care by auth0 dev keys and auth0 dev keys only. Okay. And I will simply click on save changes, right? I will simply click on save changes. And once you will do that, it will be ready. Now you have to go to this applications tab, and in this you need to select application to which you want to give this, like in which application you want this social connection, like whether you want it in your regular web application, in your React application, in which application you want this facility. So as you can see that it is already green in my case for the React SPA, right? If you will toggle it out, it will be gray here. But if you will make it as, like if you will toggle it this button once more, you will see green here. This means that now we have a LinkedIn social connection with this React SPA. Okay, and we can check it. We can check this whether it is working or not by going to try connection. So you can see it is asking for the LinkedIn profile. I will simply insert my LinkedIn password. Okay, and now you can see that it is asking us that whether we want to give access to our LinkedIn profile to auth0. As I said, you have to, if you want to change the logo, you can change it here. I will click on allow, and you can see that it is successful, and it is returning us with my profile picture, my name. So these are the things that I have provided it in my LinkedIn ID. So it is providing us with all those details, telling us that okay, the LinkedIn connection is working perfectly fine. Now once you will do that, and once you will toggle it out, your work is done here. You don't have to do anything else. Let's close this down now. Let's close this as well. So now again, coming back to the documentation. So I will share this documentation as well with you. LinkedIn social login with Web3 auth. Here we are using auth0, right? So set up LinkedIn via auth0. So we need to make some changes to our dashboard, to our project, and I will show you that. So again, we need to log in first. I will go to the projects. Okay, not yeah, we can directly select projects from here, right? So if I remember correctly, it was SP React 4. I will go for custom authentication. Here I will create a verifier, and let's rename this verifier to, let's say, demo app. Okay, now this should be unique, and then you need to select social login providers. Okay, and then you will select a login provider from here, and I will select auth0. Then I will select authentication type as LinkedIn, where it is. So here we have the LinkedIn option. And then you can see that we need to provide auth0 client ID as well as auth0 domain. So for that, we will again go back, and this is the, as I said, right, this is very important. You need to copy this down. You need to, okay, let me have this tab here, paste it here. And again, it is giving an error because I think I made a mistake. We should have a domain here, right? In domain, we should have HTTPS as well. So if I will have this like, so it will give an error. So I need to have HTTPS colon and /. I hope I have the right one. Yeah, so it is good. Let's copy the client ID from here. Now these things you should keep private. You should not reveal it to anyone. Okay, but I am creating a tutorial, so it's totally fine. And now I have the client ID. Let me check whether I have copied the right client ID. It is very important. Yeah, now it is good. You have to let it JW verified ID be sub only, and now this is done. Okay, so this is the only thing we need to do. We will simply click on create verifier, and now it will take some time. Okay, and it is saying that on an average it takes up to 30 minutes, but trust me, it will take hardly 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, in my case, most of the time it has taken only that, but in your case, if it is taking more, just don't worry, it will get processed in up to 30 minutes. Okay, so till the time it is processing, let's make some changes in our application. Now coming back to the application. Okay, so I'm going a little bit fast because we already understood the flow, right? So I'm just now telling you what are the things that are going on in the application. So you can see that we have done all these things. Now, since we want to have auth0, right? So we will simply comment this out. Okay, and everything is given in the documentation, and I will paste this particular code. Okay, this. So again, this is the same open login adapter. The only thing is now you can see that we have this login configuration as JWT. Now we need to provide the verifier name that we have given in the dashboard, and the type of login will be JWT. We are going to use JW tokens, and then we need to provide the client ID. For the verifier, I think it was demo app, if I'm not wrong. We will check it out. and we need to provide the client ID. Still it is in the processing phase, but I think it will work out, so we can trust on it. And we can provide the client ID from here only. This is the client ID of auth0. Okay, so here we will paste the client ID. Okay, and you can see that I have already provided a comment as well that you need to provide the client ID of auth0, and rest of the things will remain the same. I have commented out this particular thing from here. This will reload if I will comment it back, right? If I will comment it out, so it will reload the page on the same page, and I do not want that. I want that a new window should open and then authentication should take place. So that's why I have commented it out. In the documentation, if you will see, it is not commented. I have commented it out. Okay, so this is good. Let's now go to login.js. So this is the last change that we need to make, and it's very simple, as I said, because most of the things we have done, we have to just make some changes in the open login adapter, how we are going to work with auth0, and then we need to make some changes for the web auth3 provider. So I will simply comment this thing out, and instead of it, I will have a new code that is this web3 auth provider. So again, we have the same web3 auth provider. The only difference is now we are providing login provider JWT, and in the domain, we need the domain of auth0. And this is the verifier field, and this is the connection which we are going to use LinkedIn for. So, okay, let's have the domain here. Let's go back. We will simply copy the domain from here, and we will paste the domain here. Okay, let me recheck that whether the domain is correct or not. So it is P8M-DEF. So it's P8M and this is DEF. So this is good. So we have made all the changes. Now let's just go to the Web3 auth custom authentication. Let's see whether it, okay, it's still in the processing phase. Let me refresh and check. Yeah, now it is live, right? So now you can see that it is live. So it is working now. And now we can check that whether auth0 is working with our application or not, because now we do not have to do anything here. So let's just go to the React application. Just click on login. So login is failed. Let's refresh it now. Now login. Okay, login is failed. Let's check what is the issue. Okay, it is saying that it is already connected. Let me log out first. Refresh. Now let's try to log in. Okay. Okay, so there is a problem here. Okay, I think we left one important thing. Let me go back to the documentation. You will see that once I will go to the documentation, where it is. We need to provide one more thing in the callback URL. Okay, I think here it is not present. And that one more thing is that with this allowed callback URL, we need one more, and that is this auth.web3 auth.io. Okay, now you have to have a comma and then you need this particular URL, and you can have this URL here as well. Okay, and now we can make the changes. Okay, and this is given in the documentation. I just need to find it out, and I will share the documentation in the description of this video so that you can check it afterwards. There it is given that you need to have this as well in the allowed callback URL. Let's make these changes. Okay, so it will take some time to get in effect. Let's wait for some time. Now let's check this. Click on login. Okay, I think it is working out. Yeah, done, guys. We have done it. We have done it, right? And now you can see that via auth0 we are here, right? So this is good. This is so nice. It feels so good once you do so many steps and you get the result, right? So now you can see now we have a new account, right? We need to fund this account. The account balance is 0 currently, so we need to fund this account so that we can use it, because this time we are using auth0. So we have a new private key, a new account. And now it's time for the last step, and this is the time for the last phase, that is for server authentication. Let's do that as well. So now it's time for server side verification. So again, each and everything, guys, each and everything is given in the documentation. So documentation are so properly maintained and so properly given that you will be amazed by it. You can see again, I am in the documentation, and for the server side verification, we have two options. I think we have option with while we are doing with social logins or email password, or if you are using external wallets. So in our case, we are going to go for social login users, and this is how I think this is done. And you will see that we have so much code here, and I will explain you each and everything. Just don't worry. I know this code looks a little bit overwhelming, but trust me, it's very easy, and I will tell you how we have to do this. So first of all, since we want to do a server side verification, what we need is we need Express, right? So that we can make an interaction with the server, right? So let's go back to the application, and here I will split the terminal, and now I will create one more folder basically by doing mkdir server. So now I have a new folder, right? Let me show you. Yeah, so now we have a new folder, and here I will do npm init --y. So this will create a packet.js. Okay, I made a mistake. I made a major mistake. Let me just delete it here from here. We need to go to server and then do that. So let's go to the server, and here I will do npm init --y so that I can create a packet.json. So now we have that, and now I will create a file by the name of index.js, and in this index.js we will write the server side code. But before that, we need to install some dependencies like npm install express, cors, and nodeman so that our server keeps on running. So now it will take some time. Until the time it is taking some time, what we can do is we can go to the packet.json. We can add a start script, and in this start script we will mention nodeman, and we will mention index.js for the server file, right? Let's have a comma here. Now this is good, and now let's go back. And now since we already installed the express.js, I will simply do express require express. In order to use this, definitely we need app. We will do express, and then we will simply check whether the server is running properly or not. So let's do one thing. Let's create a port. For now, let's have this port at 5173. I think this is one of the available port which is used by White, but let's use it for now. Okay, and we will do app.listen, and then we will have the port number, and let's console.log that server is running. Console.log server is running. Good. Let's see this. npm start. Yeah, so the server is running. Great. Now before dealing with the server, let's go back to the client side. Okay, we need to make an interaction with the server, right? So let's go back to the client side, and here again we will go to the utils folder, create a new file. Let's say response handler.js, and we will paste the following code. And don't worry, I will show you this code. This is given in the documentation. So you can see that first of all, we are importing this from Taurus Labs in crypto. So now let's install this Taurus Labs eCrypto in our client side so that we can use it. Copy this down. Let's now install it. To terminate this, let's do npm. I think we have copied it, right? So let's directly install it. So this is so that we can get the public key. So what actually is happening on here is we are simply constructing a public key. Okay, so first of all, we are fetching the private key. So once the user will log in, okay, we will have his private key, and using his private key, when I'm saying we, I'm not saying as a company we, I'm saying that on the client side, each and everything that is going to happen will be happening on the client side. Okay, so the private key, public key, each and everything will be happening on the client side. So nothing will be kept on the company server or something. Each and everything will be happening on the client side. So what we are doing is once the user will log in, we will simply fetch or create his private key, and using his private key, as you can see, we are constructing his public key, because to create a public key you need a private key, right? So that's what we are doing. And then if you will go for this particular part, let me show you. Yes, now if you will call this, like when you will use web3 auth instance that we have created on the client side, right? So we will simply use this in order to call the function by the name of get user info. Now this get user info will provide you with so many different things like the user name, user profile, user image, and so many different things. From that, what we are fetching is we are fetching the ID token. So this will also provide you with the ID token, and you can console.log this particular web3 auth instance, whatever it is returning, and you can see that it will provide you this ID token. Now what we will do is we will take this ID token, as you can see in the headers, and then we will take this public key again, right? So we are not passing anything else, right? We are only passing the public key and the ID token. So we are not passing the private key. So we are passing these two things, and we are passing these two things to the server, right? So here the port number of server is 1024. So I will definitely make it 1024. And then I will simply pass these things to the server for the verification part. So again, I'm not sharing my private key. I'm only sharing the public key. Public key is public. Anyone can have a look at the public key, right? And then the ID token for the JWT token to work out. Okay. And then once we will pass this down, then the server will verify it. So server will return us with the response, and then we are going to just look for that particular response, whether the response that we were expecting, whether the verification was successful or not. If the verification was successful, then that's great. Otherwise we will reject the that we will say that okay, the verification fails, you are not authenticated. So let's do this. Okay, so the only thing that we are doing here is we are constructing the public key and fetching the, or we can say that getting, right? That will be a nicer term, getting the token. Okay, and then we are sending it to the as you can see, we are using a fetch, so we are sending it to the server side. Okay, let's make this particular thing on the server side as well. Let's have port number 1024. I think 104 is a free port if I'm not wrong, so we can use it. Okay, so this is nice. Where it is. So the response handler is ready, but in order to call this response handler, which is present here, right? So we need to call this function server authentication, and we will call this on the client side. So we will go to components, we will go to login.js. So here we will do const data, and here we will do await, and we will call the server authentication function, so which is imported from the response handler file. Right now I can simply pass the web3 auth instance, right? We already have the web3 auth instance, so let's pass this thing down. Okay, now first of all, what we will check what we have in the data, and if you will check, you will have a lot of things, and from those lot of things I will check for data.name, and I will show you at the server side as well. If data.name is verification successful, then only let's say we want to do these things. Okay, when the server side verification will be successful. Otherwise we can throw an error that throw new error, and that error will be server side authentication failed. Server side authentication failed. Okay, so this is good, and this is it. We do not need to do anything else. We are just doing a server side authentication. If that will be successful, then we are going to set the web3 instance. We will say that okay, we are logged in into the application. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. So if this is good, let's go to index.js. Let's close all these tabs, and here I will paste the following code. And again, it might look a little bit overwhelming. Okay, I think there is some error because of the JOS that I have imported here. So let me just install it as well. npm install JOS. Let me do an npm start. Yeah, now it is running at port 1024. So here, if you will see, I have made certain changes here, just few changes. First of all, I am checking process.env.port, that this is just, if the port is not available, then we will choose this particular port, any other port that is available. And then you can see we are using CORS because definitely we are making an interaction on the same local host, right? So we need to use CORS here. Express, because the response that, like the request that is made from the client side, let me show you, auth service.js, not auth service, sorry for that, response handler.js. Yeah, so the response, as you can see, is in the JSON format, right? Sorry, response, I'm saying request is in the JSON format, so that's why I have used JSON. And then we are simply having the API verify, because we are actually doing a request at this particular endpoint. And then what we are doing is we are just doing a normal authentication process. So where we are simply fetching the ID token from the headers, right? We have seen that the ID token was in the headers. Then we are simply having the public key, right, from the body, because public key was in the body. Okay, and then we are simply using JWKS in order to get the token issued by the server. So as you can see, we are using web3 auth.io, and I have written a comment here as well that get the JW set used to sign the JWT issued by the web3 auth. Now this is done so that what we are doing, let me tell you what we are doing at the surface level. We are simply going to take our public key, okay, that we have constructed at the client side, and then we are going to check whether the public key that we are getting from the server by reconstructing it from like in the server, because server will have the token and every information. As you can see, that ID token JWKS we are providing, and this is the algorithm that we are using, ES256. So when we are providing all these things, we will have this JWT decoded, and from this what we are doing is we are constructing a public key. Now if this public key that is generated from the server side and the public key that we have are equal, then we are going to say verification successful, right? And that is the message that we have at the client side. So where is the client? Okay, client. So let me show you. So this is the same message, right? Verification successful. So if we have a verification successful, means the status code is 200 and each and everything is working fine, means the authentication has taken place, each and everything is working. But by chance if it's not the case, then we are going to have this, that verification failed, means the public key from the client and the public key that is generated from the server, these two things are not equal. And hence we will say that verification failed. And this is the only thing we need to do in order to work with server side authentication and nothing else. And this is it. Let's check it finally. Let's do npm start. So now the application is reloading. So let's do a login. Okay, login failed because I think we are already logged into it. Yeah, let's refresh it. Logged in. So now the server side authentication will also be done when we will log in via our credential on LinkedIn. Let's hope everything will work out. And yes, everything is working out, guys. Everything is working out. So we now have our account, the balance, input data, the store data, everything is working. If I will do a logout, yeah, again, we are back to the front end. And this is amazing. So let me give you a quick summary what we have done so far. So we have created two folders, server folder for the server authentication process, client folder for most of the things that we are doing on the client side. Let's say login, logout, each and every functionality is given in the client side. Then we have a source folder where we have created so many different folders, ABI just for the ABI of the smart contract, various components, login, logout, store data, view data, right? Then we have a config file so that we can have the client ID, chain config and contract address, and feel free to change any of these things according to your requirements. Okay, and then we have this utils folder where we have this auth service.js just in order to create the Web3 auth object, right? So I have documented each and everything here only in form of comments, and I also told you about all these things, right? So we are just creating a Web3 auth instance here. Then we have a response handler just for the server authentication process. So the client will call this particular function server authentication, and then we will call the server from the server that we have created here, right? And then we have this Web3 state. In order to create the instance of the Web3, right, we need to create the instance of Web3 contract, we need contract account, the connected account, each and everything which we created in the web3 state.js. And we use these utils where we use these utils in these components, in the login component, right? We done a lot of things here, right? Definitely, if you want to make it much more modular, you can. If you think that certain things should not be here, definitely feel free to do that as well. We have logout, right? And I have again have this is logged in so that we have this toggling effect for the button. Store data to store the data, and then we have view data. And I hope this is not confusing you guys. This is just a promise syntax. This is coming from the JavaScript. We are simply dealing with promise, and then we are simply using these things of toast in order to have a good UI for the user. Okay, and with this, I hope we ended this tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and if you have, let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much. Meet you soon in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.